It's President Obama's signature piece of legislation. Its fate now in the hands of the U.S. Supreme Court. Talking about health care reform and the decision by the High Court to take up challenges to the law. Now, the biggest and broadest challenge comes from a joint case that was filed by 26 states, 26 of them. You see them in red. It was the series of appeals that catapulted this case to the Supreme Court. I want to bring in our senior legal analyst, Jeffrey Toobin, who joins us from New York via Skype. So, Jeffrey, the court is focusing on two main issues, essentially. What are they?
Well, the main issue is whether the federal government can force you to buy health insurance from a private company. Sure. Is that within the scope of the Constitution? And that's really the heart of the challenge.
And the Justice Department's argument in favor of the individual mandate, how do they justify that?
What they say is the healthcare is a national market. 16% of the GNP is spent on healthcare. If you choose not to buy health insurance, you are making an economic choice. You are choosing to have the taxpayers pay for you when you are sent to the emergency room. So the choice of whether or not to get health care is an economic choice that can be regulated by the federal government, and the federal government has been involved in the health care market with Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security for decades. This is simply the logical next step, not some new departure. That's the Justice Department's argument.
So, Jeffrey, I mean, this could impact all of us here. We're talking about a broad approach, and the court is focusing on the reach of the federal government, the authority, the power of Congress. What would this mean for folks who have health care?
Well, what it would mean is health care. President Obama's plan, when it goes into effect in 2014, is supposed to insure 30 million people who now don't have health insurance. They would stay uninsured if this law is struck down. Plus, I think if this law is struck down, the whole role of the federal government in health care and perhaps in other areas might now be considered suspect. It would have a very large implication for whether the federal government can be involved in the healthcare market at all.
So, Jeff, nothing's happening right now. Give us the timetable when the justices are actually going to hear this case and issue a ruling.
Well, it looks like they will hear the argument. They're going to hear 5.5 hours of argument, which is a modern record in the Supreme Court, either in February or March. Then we will almost certainly get a decision in the last week in June. That's when they decide all their most controversial cases, and they haven't had a case as big as this one since Bush v. Gore. So argument in the spring, decision end of June.